Have you ever felt inexplicably drained after spending time with someone? As if the air around you thickened, as if your spirit was weighed down by an invisible gravity you couldn't escape. Maybe you couldn't quite put your finger on it, but something about them felt false. This is the insidious nature of fake friends, the ones who wear their masks so convincingly you begin to doubt your own perception. Friedrich Nietzsche, the restless German philosopher, called these people the weaklings of spirit, those who fear authenticity because it costs too much. Today, we'll journey into the darker alleys of human relationships. We'll uncover why fake people are not merely annoying, but unbearable. Why they drain your self-respect, corrupt your mental clarity, and fracture the trust you place in your own instincts. In this episode, you'll meet Isabel, whose life became a theater of smiling deceivers. You'll learn how to recognize the quiet erosion of truth, how to protect your energy, and how to reclaim the philosophy that anchors you in something real. And you'll see, through Nietzsche's eyes, that to live honestly is not just a preference. It is an act of spiritual defiance in a culture addicted to polite deceit. So, take a deep breath. This isn't just philosophy. This is survival. Isabel always wondered why her chest felt tight after brunch with Jasper. They'd trade polite words, compliment each other's accomplishments. But when Jasper left, Isabel felt hollow, as if her inner fire had been smothered by invisible hands. She tried to tell herself it was just fatigue or overthinking, but the feeling grew each time they met. The truth was simpler and more unsettling. She was witnessing the slow decay of something real. What began as friendship had calcified into performance. Jasper never contradicted her opinions, never shared his genuine frustrations, never offered anything that felt raw or alive. It was as if he believed the highest virtue was never to disagree. Friedrich Nietzsche warned, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently." Translation: when you surround yourself with people who pretend to agree, who never challenge or reveal their true faces, you're not in harmony. You're in a slow, silent erosion of truth. This is the quiet damage of fake friends. They smile while resenting your successes. They mirror your ideas but never bring their own. They offer validation without substance. Only the hollow echo of your own words reflected back at you. Psychologists call this emotional mimicry, a survival tactic used by those too fearful to risk conflict, too fragile to stand in the bright light of disagreement. And yet, the more they pretend, the more you feel the corrosion in your spirit. Every forced smile becomes a tiny fracture in your trust. Over time, Isabel began to notice how Jasper's compliments were always just a little too rehearsed, how his enthusiasm for her promotions felt almost practiced. His support was never the kind that inspired her to grow. It was the kind that kept her comfortably numb. Philosophy teaches that such connections are the most dangerous because they require no overt betrayal, only the steady drip of falseness. When every interaction becomes a performance, you lose trust in your perceptions. Your mental clarity dissolves under the acid of constant pretense. You start questioning your instincts, wondering if you are imagining the dissonance. And that confusion is exactly what keeps counterfeit connections alive. If you sense this erosion, here's Nietzsche's medicine. Honor the discomfort. When you feel drained, see it as a diagnostic tool, your intuition telling you that someone's mask has become a prison for them and for you. That persistent ache in your chest isn't ungratefulness or paranoia. It's the symptom of a bond built on pretense. Self-respect demands you choose authenticity over approval. It means you must sometimes walk away from people whose performance is more important to them than the truth. As Nietzsche believed, philosophy isn't merely an intellectual hobby. It is a compass pointing you back to your own integrity. When you dare to confront the polite deceptions of fake friends, you reclaim your energy. You clear the fog from your perception, and you begin to remember who you were before you learned to pretend. Leo always knew how to win a crowd. At every gathering, he'd laugh at jokes he didn't find funny, nod at opinions he secretly scorned, and slip seamlessly into whatever role would please the most people. And people adored him for it. They praised his warmth, his agreeable nature, his effortless charm. But beneath that polished exterior, Leo's soul shriveled. He became the person everyone loved, while slowly forgetting who he truly was. The applause became an anesthetic, numbing him to the quiet misery of a life spent performing. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "He who despises himself still respects himself as one who despises." Even self-hatred, Nietzsche believed, carries a strange kind of integrity. It is at least a recognition of something real. But living as a chameleon breeds a more insidious kind of self-loathing, one that grows in the shadows, unspoken and unacknowledged. Every time Leo betrayed his instincts to maintain approval, a small part of his authenticity withered. What began as a harmless strategy to fit in evolved into a chronic dependence on other people's validation. And in that dependence, Leo lost the capacity for honest connection. In a world obsessed with social performance, philosophy becomes a lifeline. It reminds us that the purpose of life is not applause, it is alignment. Alignment with your own values, your own perceptions, your own truth, even when that truth is inconvenient or unpopular. This is the paradox. The more you contort yourself to be liked, the more invisible you become, to others and to yourself. Leo was admired by everyone, but truly known by no one. His laughter was loud, but his inner voice had grown faint, buried under layers of polite deceit. Ask yourself, are you performing approval? Are you a guest star in the theater of someone else's expectations? Or are you willing to let your truth be awkward, confrontational, real? Because real connection begins where performance ends. If you feel the hollow ache of disconnection, it may be the cost of a life spent chasing applause. The philosopher's path, as Nietzsche saw it, is a rebellion against this emptiness. It is choosing self-respect over popularity. It is daring to say the thing that might offend the crowd, because that is the only way to remain whole. If you want mental clarity, Nietzsche offers this strategy. Refuse to wear the mask. When you practice honest disagreement, you become a lighthouse in a sea of mimicry. And though fewer ships will dock at your shore, the ones that do will see you clearly and stay because of who you really are. This is the quiet power of philosophy overdose. It inoculates you against the sickness of approval, and it restores the courage to be seen as you are, unpolished and free. Isabel once told Jasper about her deepest heartbreak. They were sitting on the back patio at twilight, the air cool with the first hints of autumn. Her voice trembled as she spoke of the relationship that had left her hollow, of the betrayal that made her question her worth. Jasper nodded sympathetically, but his eyes drifted to his phone, flickering with notifications he couldn't resist checking. He offered all the right words. "I'm so sorry. That must have been so hard." But there was no weight behind them. They were phrases recited by habit, not born of empathy. A week later, Isabel learned that Jasper had shared her story at another party, reducing her vulnerability to a morsel of gossip, just another anecdote to fill an awkward silence. In that moment, she felt the sting of recognition. Their bond had never been real. It was a transaction, her pain offered as currency for his momentary relevance. This is the tragedy of shallow bonds. Friedrich Nietzsche observed, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." But those threads must be woven from mutual respect and shared truth, not convenience and performance. When connection is hollow, it becomes a kind of social theater, everyone playing roles, no one daring to be real. Philosophy overdose, an obsession with surface-level thinking, turns people into collectors of social currency. They trade intimacy for leverage. They borrow your pain, but never pay it back with understanding. In a world where oversharing is mistaken for closeness, it can be difficult to see who truly deserves your trust. Many people will listen to your confessions only to spin them into entertainment, proof that they have access to your private world. They will praise your vulnerability to your face and weaponize it when you're gone. To protect yourself, you must test the depth of your relationships. Share something real, something that matters. Then observe whether it is held in confidence or turned into spectacle. True friends will hold your secrets like sacred relics, respecting the cost of your honesty. Fake friends will treat them as disposable anecdotes. Here is your compass. If their presence leaves you emptier, not fuller, walk away. Self-respect means refusing to bargain your dignity for company. It means recognizing that the illusion of connection is worse than solitude. Philosophy, as Nietzsche taught, is not a shield against betrayal, but a torch that illuminates the difference between sincerity and performance. When you see clearly, you can choose clearly, and in that clarity, you reclaim your power, the power to invest your trust only where it will be nourished, never exploited. This is how you create bonds that are real. This is how you protect the sanctity of your inner life. Leo once congratulated Isabel on her promotion with a tight-lipped smile. The words sounded warm. "You deserve it," he said. But his eyes gave something away, a flicker of something darker, something she couldn't name at first. Later that evening, when the applause had faded and Isabel was no longer in the room, Leo leaned toward a group of mutual friends and whispered that she had probably slept her way to the top. This is how envy reveals itself, not in outright sabotage, but in the slow drip of insinuation. It hides behind polite words and friendly gestures, waiting for a chance to contaminate your reputation. It is the invisible toxin that transforms admiration into resentment. Friedrich Nietzsche called envy the worm at the heart of all counterfeit love. It disguises itself as affection, but it is a parasite feeding on your joy. Every success you achieve becomes a reminder to the envious of their own unfulfilled ambitions. And rather than confront their failures, they will try to dull your brilliance to soothe their inadequacy. When you are in the company of the envious, no success is safe. No vulnerability remains unexploited. Your triumphs become daggers in their chests, sharp evidence that you dared to reach for more while they stayed behind. Philosophy teaches us that envy is less about you and more about the emptiness in them. But that knowledge doesn't make the experience any less corrosive. Recognize this pattern. If every milestone you reach is met with backhanded praise, must be nice. Some people have all the luck. Understand you are standing in the rot of envy. It will not heal. It only spreads, infecting your sense of safety until you start shrinking your successes just to make other people comfortable. Self-respect means refusing to apologize for your growth. It means refusing to dim your light to appease those unwilling to kindle their own. Nietzsche would urge you to protect your spirit. Withdraw your energy from those who resent its glow. True connection requires celebration, not competition. It requires the courage to be fully alive in the presence of others, without guilt, without explanation. If you crave mental clarity, understand this. Envy thrives in silence and pretense. It withers in the presence of honesty and boundaries. Call it out when you see it. Refuse to let your accomplishments be twisted into weapons against you. Philosophy isn't just an intellectual exercise. It is an act of self-preservation. As Nietzsche taught, your life is too short to spend among those who secretly wish to see you fail. And your spirit is too sacred to surrender to the bitterness of others. This is your reminder. Protect your light, and never apologize for letting it shine. Jasper was unfailingly pleasant. He never disagreed. He never expressed frustration. He never admitted when he felt hurt or disappointed. At first, Isabel thought this was a virtue, proof that he was stable, patient, understanding. But over time, she began to sense something hollow behind the compliments. His warmth was a cloak over his indifference. His politeness was a shield to avoid the discomfort of being real. He would say, "That's wonderful," even when he didn't care. He would nod supportively, even when he privately judged her choices. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "I am not upset that you lied to me. I am upset that from now on I can't believe you." The lie of niceness is perhaps the most dangerous deceit. It lulls you into a sense of safety, only to reveal an abyss of apathy when you finally need real support. The problem with people who worship politeness is that they never risk friction. They never dare to love you with honesty. And when crisis strikes, when you need more than agreeable words, you discover the truth. There is no real connection behind the smile. Niceness is not kindness. Niceness is a performance to avoid discomfort. Kindness is the willingness to tell you a hard truth because they care more about your growth than your approval. It takes courage to look someone in the eyes and say, "I disagree," or "You deserve better," or "This scares me." Niceness requires nothing but a pleasant mask. Kindness requires integrity. If you want to reclaim your mental clarity, practice discernment. Ask whether their sweetness comes with accountability. Does their affection stand the test of conflict? Does their concern survive your darkest hours, or does it vanish the moment you become inconvenient? Jasper was always there when Isabel was cheerful and easy to please, but when she needed someone to hold space for her sorrow, his bright demeanor became a wall she could not breach, and she realized that fake friends often hide behind friendliness. Their polished manners are camouflage for their inability to meet you where it matters most. Self-respect grows when you stop mistaking politeness for love, when you recognize that the most honest relationships are often the least comfortable ones. Nietzsche's philosophy is a reminder that the courage to be real will always cost you shallow connections, but it will also deliver you into the company of those who value authenticity over performance. And when you choose a philosophy rooted in candor, even if it stings, you free yourself from the exhausting theater of false approval, because only in the clear light of truth can your spirit finally breathe. Leo confessed to Isabel one rainy night that he didn't know who he was anymore. They sat across from each other, the windows streaked with water, the lamplight casting long shadows across the floor. His voice was barely more than a whisper when he admitted, "I've spent so many years playing roles that I don't think there's anything real left." And in that moment, Isabel felt both sorrow and clarity. Friedrich Nietzsche warned, "Become who you are." A simple phrase, but a lifelong challenge. A philosophy that demands you peel away every borrowed identity, every convenient lie, every mask you learn to wear to stay acceptable. Leo had mastered the art of social camouflage. He knew exactly how to make everyone comfortable, how to mirror their opinions, echo their values, reflect their expectations. In every room, he could sense what people wanted him to be, and he became it effortlessly. But in doing so, he sacrificed the raw material of his own life. Slowly, year by year, his true self withered from neglect. What remained was a hollow shell, charming, agreeable, admired, and utterly disconnected from any authentic purpose. Fake people are unbearable not because they are malicious, but because they are empty. They project their unlived lives onto you, expecting you to validate their illusions. They cannot celebrate your self-respect because it reminds them of everything they abandoned to remain acceptable. And when you dare to claim your mental clarity, to say, "This is who I am," even if you disapprove, you become a mirror reflecting their cowardice. And if you refuse to participate in their performance, they will brand you difficult, arrogant, uncooperative in their shared fantasy. Your authenticity becomes an accusation they cannot tolerate, because in your courage, they see every compromise they made to survive. If you want freedom, you must first accept this brutal truth. Some people are too afraid to step into their own authenticity, and they will never forgive you for doing what they will not. You will become a threat to their carefully constructed image, an inconvenient reminder that life is too short for polite pretense. Philosophy isn't just an intellectual exercise. It is a radical act of reclamation, a refusal to settle for counterfeit connections. Nietzsche's work is a guide for anyone suffocating in the shallows, longing for the oxygen of something real. This is the heart of philosophy overdose, choosing to live by your convictions rather than the scripts written by society. It will cost you the admiration of those addicted to appearances. It will cost you the approval of fake friends, but it will deliver you into the rare company of people who recognize the value of honesty, who have the courage to meet you in your rawest truth. To become who you are is not comfortable. It is not easy. It is the most necessary thing you will ever do. Because in that unapologetic becoming, you discover the only love worth having, the love that sees you fully and chooses you anyway. So, why are fake people so unbearable? Because they force you into a silent war against your own instincts. They poison your trust, fracture your mental clarity, and demand that you abandon your integrity for their comfort. Friedrich Nietzsche taught that life is too short and too sacred to waste among pretenders. Authenticity is not merely a personal virtue. It is a revolutionary act, a refusal to participate in the theater of deception. If you feel this truth in your bones, if you are tired of shallow bonds, of polite lies, of friendships built on mimicry, know that you are not alone. This channel is a place for those who crave more honesty, more depth, more philosophy that doesn't just decorate your mind, but liberates your spirit. So if you're ready to step into the discomfort of your own becoming, if you are ready to reclaim your self-respect and honor the raw honesty that comes with real connection, subscribe now. Join a community of seekers who understand that choosing authenticity over approval is the most radical choice you can make. And remember, your life is the one place where you are never meant to be a spectator. Choose the truth, no matter the cost. Choose the courage to become who you are, and let that choice set you free.